I stayed and went on the shoot where Chris went to the drug dealers on All Saints Road
Yeah.
in London, and he had a space hopper on his head, wearing a nappy, and we were sitting in Peter's house before we went, and he sat there in his nappy, and he was sellotaping magazines to his chest, and I was like, "That's not what you're not doing that. I hope I'm not right in why you're doing that." He goes, "Yes, in case I get stabbed."
I've got 30 quid.
Was it,
You got any grass?
Last time I came here, a friend of mine just got triple jacked over the steeple hammer and Jessup.
So going back to the time with Chris Morris on the radio, is
Yeah.
that what led on to you working on Brass Eye then? Is having that experience
Yeah.
with Chris?
I I managed to get a record deal in between the Radio 1 shows and when the day to day, or was it the other way around? I can't remember whichever came first. My memory's appalling. But when the day to day was being made, I didn't work on it because I was signed to a label and we were recording an album. And so I came back to work on Brass Eye. So we always kept in touch, and you know, I did contribute a couple of silly little things, I think, to the day to day. But yeah, as a proper kind of investment of time, it was for Brass Eye when that came up. Yeah,
Yeah, because I had Michael come in on, and I hosted one of his Oxide Ghosts
yeah,
screenings. I love Brass Eye, and
mm,
well, I think most people in this country that like comedy like Brass Eye.
yeah. It's fun. I went to one of the Oxide Ghost screenings, the one in down in Clapham, and Michael was there, and I hadn't seen him, I don't think, since Brass Eye. So it was really lovely to see him, and it was nice to be part of it as well. And he'd edited together all of my technologies, into one long kind of montage of anxiety. But yeah, no, Michael's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad they got to do that because so many people love to hear the kind of other side of how something like that got made.
Oh yeah, and just seeing Chris break character, like seeing Chris laugh at some of his own jokes and stuff. It's like you never see that. You never, I'd never thought I'd get to see outtakes of Brass Eye. So yeah, it's.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you saying your technology bit, I think it was like the week I I DM'd you about this.
mm,
I saw that clip pop up about 2 or 3 times on different things on
really?
YouTube. Yeah, nothing to do with Brass Eye, just
No,
some like talking about people being afraid of technology, and then suddenly it'd be the technology
yeah,
clip. I was like, "There's Paul."
yeah. You see, again, I just don't know what's going on with this stuff. I don't kind of follow it around and see where it is. And there's other people tell me, like you just told me that.
Yeah.
It's my nephew actually. I tell you what, it's actually the day that I was going to the Oxide Ghost screening. He was going, what's that then? And I said, "Oh, I worked on this show years ago. It's called Brass Eye. And oh, what sort of stuff did you do?" And I said, "Oh, one of the things I did as an actor in it, I had to do this thing, and I hold in a big sign saying technology, and the voiceover says, 'So why are people so afraid of technology?' And then I'm just shouting technology at people in the street." And he went, "Hang on, you're the technology man." I went, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's like got 10 million views on YouTube." I went, "Has it?" And we looked, and it had, and I had no idea. And the thing is, you sort of do these things years ago, and you kind of forget about them and move on. I can't even remember half the stuff I've done.
Yeah.
But I was having a chat with a friend of mine last night, and he mentioned something I'd done about Bruce Grobbelaar, and he said, "Oh, you did a kind of crazy spot the ball thing." It's like I have no idea. It means nothing to me. I can't remember anything about it. But yeah, yeah. So I'm great. I'm glad that
Yeah, it seems to
that's
be
still
like
kind of popping up.
Yeah, like a meme, I suppose, that people use
Right. Yeah.
online.
It's funny actually because one of the Radio 1 Chris Morris show things that I did also that kind of people remember is the airport tannoy announcements, where I'd go and get, silly, rude names read out over the tannoy. And they were sort of one of the first viral things when the internet kind of got going, because I remember get sent it by just random, and it was everywhere. And even when I went to a wedding in Sweden, the just to get people chatting on the table, they had a little note saying, "Ask the person next to you about this," so you could just get chatting. And
Yeah.
the person next to me's note said, "Ask Paul about the airport." Right? And so I went, what's that? And I went, oh, it must be that. And I started to tell them, they go, "We have this. We love these crazy messages." It's like, bloody hell, it's over here already. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how things get flung out there.
What is it? My the one that sticks with me is my colleague just farted the bastard or something. So Chris molds them into, well, I suppose you and Chris mold them into
Mm.
like into
Yeah.
names.
Well, what we'd do is we kept writing them out until there was no sign of anything suspicious, but that they could only say it that way because there's so many variables. If you don't quite get the word right, they could say it, mispronounce it. A C becomes a K or a soft C. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we spent quite a while doing that. Yeah, that one was, "My colleague just farted and left the room, the bastard." Followed by, "Still I got my own bath and took a piss in his tea." Just, I mean, do you know what I mean? We're grown men.
Yeah.
And I'd go to the airport, kind of under the guise of a cab driver picking up his passengers. And you go to Terminal 3 because it was the most cosmopolitan one, and people coming in from different parts of the world with slightly peculiar names. And actually, on that one, I got rumbled after I'd done "My colleague just farted and left the room, the bastard." People had started laughing, you see, around the airport. And so when I went up with the next one, all these staff appeared like looking really pissed off a bit and going, "We know what you're doing." I went, "Sorry?" I went, "We know what you're doing. You're getting rude names read out, and we've had complaints." And I was removed from the airport, and I was banned from Heathrow. So for the second half, we had to go to Gatwick. Refuse to stop being stupid. You'll never stop us.
So are there any other bits for you that really stand out from Brass Eye then, like that you wrote or that you were in, or?
I was lucky enough actually to be sort of involved in some of the more well, it's all memorable. It's just a brilliant series. But for example, the whole cake
Yeah.
thing, and they got a question read out in Parliament. I was the victim of cake that was they showed Parliament that this is what's happening to this. So I was rolling around on a sort of muck heap at the back of Peter Fincham's house, who was the exec producer at the time, and shouting "Todd!" that, and he managed to convince them that I was a victim, a Czechoslovakian victim of cake. So that was great. But on that night, I stayed and went on the shoot where Chris went to the drug dealers on All Saints Road
Yeah.
in London, and he had a space hopper on his head, wearing a nappy, and we were sitting in Peter's house before we went, and he sat there in his nappy, and he was sellotaping magazines to his chest, and I was like, "That's not what you're not doing that. I hope I'm not right in why you're doing that." He goes, "Yes, in case I get stabbed." I was like, "Oh my god!" So he's got two copies of Elle magazine or something quite thick, like one on his front, one on his back, sellotaped, and then but absolutely fearless, just went into it quite without any trace of nerves. He just loves it. I think with that sort of thing, with kind of hidden camera comedy or anything, you've got to love it. You can't do it and feel, you know, you just want to get it over and done with. There's sometimes you do, when you think you're going to get walloped, you know, which I had a few times when I was on the mobile phone on the radio shows with Chris telling me exactly what to do. There was times I had been like I did this thing where I was in a cab in a taxi, and I had to keep telling him things like, "Can you go around the roundabout? You did it too fast the first time. Can you go again?" I was supposed to be like a nervous passenger, and I poured a bottle of TCP over my head. I don't know why I did that. It was on radio. Strange, isn't it? Anyway, and you know, I was physically pulled out of the car there. I got thrown out of a store in London by a big fella shopkeeper who thought I was peculiar. So there's occasions where, yeah, you think this could go horribly wrong, but you do have to love it, and you have to be prepared to. It's not like a normal acting job, because you learn your lines as an actor, but when you're doing something like that, if something's going well, you've got to be able to take it on to another level.
Yeah.
So you have what you've gone in with, and if you drop those bombs and you get them, you've got it. But if you get any more, that's even better. And so you have to have that thrill of being in that moment. And yeah, Chris does it well. Sasha does it really well. Simon Brogdon does it really well.
Yeah. And I suppose there's elements to it with Paul Kaye as well, isn't it? Like, you know,
Paul is on the other end of the scale, actually, and will be the first to admit it. He hated it.
You have to embarrass yourself, Mark.